Hello and welcome to the official course preview of the Cougar Classic presented by Six Sided Discs. This is a PDGA Amateur C tier on September 10th at Mount Vernon Nazarene University in Mount Vernon, Ohio. Six Sided Discs will be vending payout for the amateur divisions, and our pop-up shop will be open all day right next to Hole 1. Thank you to our additional sponsors, North Main Cafe, Slick Willie's Disc Golf, Boylan Acres, and V&H Disc Golf. This is a custom layout at Mount Vernon Nazarene University's course, with 3 additional holes being played and hole 7 not being played as part of this tournament layout. We begin at hole 1, par 3, 266 feet, with OB along the right with the road. We also have OB left in the creek. Your main concern here is the low ceiling from the limbs hanging over from the trees on the left-hand side. And if you can push your shot just beyond those, you should have a safe putt at the basket. Hole 2 is another easy par 3. You should have a couple birdie looks on the first couple holes. You're only going to reach the OB on the road or the gazebo, right and left respectively, with a really wayward shot. And at 271 feet, it is very much reachable. Hole A is our first temp hole on the layout. It's a par 3 teeing off from the gazebo, uphill at about 260 feet with low hanging branches right off the tee. This is going to be a much more difficult placement shot, and it's also going to be played differently depending on what division you are playing. Advanced, Intermediate, and MPO are going to play OB beyond the sidewalk just in the frame here. All other divisions will play the OB line at the road beyond the sidewalk, and the basket will be placed here where we see the yellow disc. Hole 3 is another par 3, 267 feet, teeing off from the sidewalk next to the building with OB road along the right. We're going to fly over this picturesque pond here, which will also play OB if surrounded by water. You can take a high hyzer line or maybe even a flex forehand if you have something stable, and the distance shouldn't be an issue because we're playing downhill. The early part of the course is certainly going to present plenty of birdie opportunities, and hole 4 is another one of those. Another par 3 at just 248 feet. You have OB road to the right, and there's also an OB creek just beyond, but they're pretty far from the basket, and you'd have to really pump it long for that to be an issue. Moving on to hole 5, at 383 feet, you might think it's pretty short for a par 4, but just take a look at all these trees, and with an OB creek on the right, your score can rack up pretty quickly. If you can manage to push your first shot beyond the first few trees, you should have a really easy birdie here, but would not be surprised at all to see some pars on hole 5. Hole 6 is a tricky placement shot off the tee. This is a par 5, 571 feet. There's an OB creek on the right that shouldn't come into play early. You're looking to land your first shot just beyond the short trees here, near the path, which is inbounds. Your second shot needs to get down this tunnel and finish somewhere just slightly off to the left in the grass. Just a little further about here. And then you're going to have an opportunity to bend either a forehand approach or maybe a little Anheuser putter shot down into the circle here with OB road left and creek right to this well-protected basket. 3 well-executed shots will give you an easy birdie. Hole B is our second temp hole. It's a par 3, just 170 feet, but we have Mando left of the first large pine tree, which is going to force you out into the open here. But we also have out of bounds on the shelter house. The basket will be placed just behind this tree, between the tree and the shelter house, where you see the yellow disc on the ground and the graphic on the screen. There will also be an OB line circling behind it to keep you off the fairway of the next hole. Hole 8 is a short par 4, 372 feet with Mando right of the large tree off the tee. It's going to force a sort of aggressive hyzer angle with an overstable disc that can get through and skip sharply left after it exits this very, very tight fairway. If you do manage to get into the clearing out here, you should have a pretty easy layup for a birdie, but it's not at all difficult to rack up a couple strokes trying to get out of that initial wooded area. A par is going to feel like a bogey, and a birdie is going to feel like a par. Hole 9 is a par 3, 331 feet with OB sidewalk cutting through the middle of the fairway. That should really only come into play if you manage to hit the light pole in the fairway. Otherwise, this is pretty open, and there's 2 other obstacles to keep an eye out for. An OB garden along the right-hand side for overturned shots or early fading forehands, and an OB line between the 2 telephone poles that's going to be the dividing line between hole 9's fairway and hole 18. All right, so you've waited patiently throughout your round, and finally here at hole 10, you can let it rip on this par 4, 555 feet. No out of bounds. The only real obstacles in your way, perhaps the satellite dish or this tree straight ahead, or if you manage to really overturn a shot, you might find yourself out in the cornfield there. But if you play a safe hyzer shot into the shadow of the tree that we're flying over right now, you should have a pretty easy forehand approach, or maybe backhand turnover or low skipping shot into this basket for a birdie. Hole 11 is a tight par 3, 167 feet with OB left. So a nasty tree kick is going to kick you most likely out of bounds. Pick your straightest disc and just throw it straight at this basket. Give it a good ace run and hope for the best. These sorts of holes are always really tricky. I would say these trees are maybe 8 feet apart at most. Hole C is our final temp hole. This is a par 3, 255 feet. You're teeing off from an out-of-bounds road, so you'll see an out-of-bounds line right in front of you along the road. Watch out for the telephone poles and OB line left. So the grassy area, the short grass, is your fairway. And you're going to look to land here by the yellow disc. And watch out if you push it long, there's also OB road behind. Hole 12 is a par 4, 636 feet. It looks pretty open off of the tee. We do have OB right in a parking lot, quite a ways down the fairway. And then the closer you get to the end of the hole, the closer the OB line comes in on the left, which is going to create a divider between hole 12 and hole 13. So if you have any shots that are fading out early left or turning over too far right, you'll find yourself out of bounds with a long approach to this wide open basket. All right, hole 13 is a doozy. This is a par 4, 552 feet. OB immediately left, keeping you out of 12's fairway. There's also a Mando on your right, which forces the shot left, straight ahead here by this OB line. You're going to try and get your first shot to essentially be a layup to the corner. So you're going to want a really overstable forehand or lefty backhand to land somewhere in here and just give you a look down the rest of the fairway. And you're probably wondering right about now, where's the basket? So you're going to be looking to lay up just behind this long grass, bushy area on the right, and the drone's just going to spin for us and reveal this very well protected basket. 2 really good placement shots should give you a birdie putt, but I think this is going to score closer to par. Hole 14 is a par 3, 328 feet. Another pretty straightforward one. The hole's right in front of you. There's 2 guardian trees, but they're pretty much even with the basket. So take whatever disc you feel confident you can hit 300 feet and you'll be in circle with a look at birdie. If you do push it long, there is an OB line just behind circle 2. Hole 15 is a par 3, 396 feet. The road is out of bounds, as is the grassy area inside the 2 roads. Overturned shots will push well right and bring in the out of bounds fence. Otherwise, you're looking to keep it straight or get a nice long drifting shot that skips back left at the end to put you right to this protected basket. Hole 16 is also a par 3, 257 feet. OB line left is going to force you to keep your shot low and tight down the fairway. Any OB shot off the tee will proceed to the drop zone, and then any out of bounds shot after the drop zone will play as standard OB rules. Otherwise, this should be a pretty straightforward birdie. Just make sure you push that shot long enough to get down to the basket and not skip in too early into the long grass on the right. Hole 17 looks pretty straightforward at 229 feet, but there is an OB line left along the tall grass that's going to force you to really keep this shot tight down the fairway. Even though it's only 229 feet, with only 2 holes to go, I think we're going to see some score separation with that tight out of bounds. And here is our finishing hole, hole 18, par 4, 363 feet. We have a Mando right of the telephone pole up ahead. We're also going to have an OB line between these 2 telephone poles to keep you out of hole 9's fairway. You're going to be looking to land your shot as far left, as close as you can get to that OB line while staying safe. That's going to set you up with the best angle to come into this really tight tunnel shot, which after it curves right is going to come back left and create a really, really interesting shot, maybe a forehand flex line with an approach disc, and try and end up right here at hole 18. Thank you again for watching the official course preview of the Cougar Classic, presented by Six Sided Discs. Remember, Six Sided Discs will be vending payout for the amateur divisions, and our pop-up shop will be open all day right next to hole 1. We can't wait to see you there and have the inaugural sanctioned event here at Mount Vernon Nazarene University. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more local content, or follow us across all of our social media platforms to stay in touch with everything Six Sided Discs.